So there's this new study by Lott and Carlisle Moody, two guys who actually know how to run numbers without cooking them in anti-gun stew. And they asked the question we've all been asking for years. Do armed civilians stop active shooters more effectively than uniformed police officers? And the answer is yes. Not maybe, not in some cases. Statistically, consistently, yes. And this isn't some theory typed up in a Reddit thread after a range day. This is backed by almost a decade of data from actual active shooter incidents between 2014 and 2022. This isn't about attacking police, though. I support law enforcement, but support doesn't mean pretending away inconvenient truths. And the truth is, when it comes to stopping an active shooter, the badge doesn't beat the bullet. Proximity, readiness, and unpredictability do. So here we are. Reason number one, armed civilians are already there. When an active shooter starts lighting up a mall, you don't have 5 minutes to wait for help. The help has to already be there. And I quote, "Civilians can intervene when in places they are allowed to carry concealed weapons before an attacker notices them." That's the first advantage. Presence. The civilian isn't responding. They're reacting instantly because they're already at the gas station, the grocery store, the church pew, or the food court. Police, on the other hand, are trying to get there. And by the time they do, usually the damage is already done. Reason number two, uniformed officers are obvious targets. This one's just tactical reality, and it's backed up by the study. Attackers who see a uniformed police officer can wait for the officer to leave, move on to another target, or strike first knowing the officer is armed. If a shooter walks into a public space and sees a cop, that cop becomes target number one, either avoided, ambushed, or bypassed. That's why air marshals don't wear uniforms on planes. Visibility is vulnerability. But the average civilian walking through a mall with concealed carry, that's not a threat the shooter sees coming. That's the guy who ends it before it starts. And reason number three, civilians stop more shooters than police. This one's gonna rattle some cages. From 2014 to 2022, armed civilians stopped 179 active shooter incidents. Police stopped 158. That's not my stat, that's from the actual research. That means in raw numbers, armed civilians are out here putting in work, and they're doing it more often than uniformed officers. And no, these aren't all ex-SEALs or off-duty cops with plate carriers in the trunk. Many of these were regular citizens who just happen to be armed, aware, and present. The narrative has always been, leave it to the professionals. But the data says otherwise. When it comes to stopping the threat in the moment, armed civilians are doing it, and doing it more often than the people we're told are the only ones qualified to handle it. And here's the thing, it's not about ego. It's not about trying to be a hero. It's about being the first person close enough to actually make a difference and being prepared to act when that moment comes. Reason number four, civilians cause fewer deaths and injuries. This one's not even close. Armed civilians reduced deaths by 49%. Police intervention increased deaths by 16%. And for injuries, civilians reduced the number of people wounded by 41%. Police had no statistical significant effect. Total casualties? Down 44% when a civilian stops it. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean that calling the police causes more deaths. The study itself makes that clear. The police are associated with events that are more deadly than either armed citizen response or other action. However, the results indicate that police are less effective than armed citizens in reducing the number of deaths associated with active shooter incidents. In other words, police aren't making things worse. They're just showing up to worse situations, and they're showing up later. But armed citizens, we're there when the first shot is fired, not after the sirens start, and the result is fewer dead bodies, fewer injuries, less carnage. That's not theory, that's statistical reality. And reason number five, civilians handle the responsibility better than they're given credit for. This one shuts down the entire Wild Wild West argument. We're told civilians are reckless, that we'll shoot the wrong person, that we'll get ourselves killed, that we'll make it worse. But the study tells a different story. Civilians had a 1.1% chance of being killed. Police had a 16.5% chance. Civilians shot the wrong person just once in 179 cases. Police did it 4 times, including killing by friendly fire. Armed citizens have never killed the wrong person. So, how did they get those numbers? The researchers tracked every active shooter event where either a police officer or an armed civilian intervened. They recorded whether the responder was killed, injured, or accidentally shot the wrong person. Out of the 179 civilian-involved incidents, only 2 civilians were killed. Only 1 shot the wrong person. 0 killed the wrong person. Out of 158 police-involved incidents, 26 officers were killed. 4 cases involved wrong person shootings, including 2 friendly fire deaths. So, when they ran the numbers, the civilian fatality rate came out to 1.1% versus 16.5% for police. And civilians were also far less likely to make a critical mistake. We're not out here looking to be heroes. We're just the only ones close enough to stop evil when it starts. And when we do, we're precise, we're responsible, and we're effective. And look, being prepared doesn't stop at carrying a gun. Unfortunately, we live in a time where you can do everything right, protect your life, follow the law, and still end up being treated like a criminal. You could lose everything, your money, your job, your freedom, just because you dared to defend yourself. That's the reality. And it's why I'm proud to have USCCA as a sponsor of this channel, because at the end of the day, surviving the moment is only half the battle. The other half is making sure you don't go broke or lose your fortune in court just for saving your own life. What I love about the USCCA is how comprehensive they are. It's not just legal defense money. Though, yeah, that's a huge part of it. It's also the training, the mindset, and the knowledge, and the ongoing education. It's everything you need before, during, and after a self-defense situation. Now, look, there are other companies out there that offer legal protection. And honestly, if you decide to go with them, please do. I'd rather you be protected with someone than not be protected at all. But me personally, I choose USCCA because I believe they're the most complete, most prepared, and most proven at what they do. So if you carry a gun or you're thinking about it, click the link in the description section and check out a USCCA membership for yourself. Protect your life and your future. Now, this video wasn't about dunking on law enforcement. It's about presenting reality, a reality that a lot of the media tries to avoid. Uniformed officers face tactical disadvantages. Armed citizens, we are the tactical advantage if we're allowed to be. The study doesn't say armed civilians might be effective. It says we are in the data, in the real world, and in the moments that matter most. So instead of banning us from schools, malls, and churches, maybe we should stop pretending that disarming the good guy somehow makes the bad guy less dangerous. Because when it all goes down, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is the closest good guy who's legally carrying one. One thing's for certain and 2 things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.